going on? It's your boy Icon once again. Just finished watching the Survivor Series, which was quite possibly the most confusing show I've seen all year. Just to get the pleasantries out of the way, Raw basically swept the entire pay-per-view. Smackdown did win the tag team traditional Survivor Series tag team match, but for some reason they weren't counting that. They didn't count the pre-show as an actual match, which would have made sense because if you counted the tag team Smackdown match, that would have been 7 matches in total. So if there was potential for a tie, then there could have been a tiebreak involved. But they chose not to add the Smackdown tag team match. The Usos were the sole survivors. They beat Team Raw. The New Day were the first ones to come out. They gave every single member of their team a tag team introduction, which was pretty cool. Kofi Kingston had blue pancakes. But, the match didn't set up anything. Like, nothing. If anything, if anything, the match made the entire SmackDown tag team division look like friends instead of rivals. Nothing happened on the Raw side that was special. I mean, if anything, the Revival ended up being the very last tag team, but I wouldn't say that means that the Revival is going to do anything special either. So it was just a regular tag team match. If out of every single tag team in the WWE, the Usos were left standing. So the Usos, I guess, are the best tag team in the world. The opening match for the actual show was the women's Survivor Series tag team match. Now earlier in the show, they announced that Naomi was going to be the captain because she took Charlotte's place. And I can't say she took Charlotte's place because Charlotte never actually accepted the role to be SmackDown. To be SmackDown captain. So Naomi was captain, and she chose Mandy Rose to be the 5th person, which was kind of cool. Because Mandy Rose hasn't really done a lot. It would have been nice to see the Iconics. It would have been nice to see Lana. I don't know why they just didn't throw. To be honest, what they should have did. I mean, but you find out why at the end. Well, let me go back real quick. So you had Mandy Rose on the SmackDown Women's team. During the pre-show, Natty and the Riot Squad got into a fight, and then Alexa Bliss said that since they can't get along, she kicked both of them off the team, and she replaced them with Sasha and Bayley. Sasha, who did tell the entire Raw Women's team that once the Survivor Series is over, she's coming for each and every one of them individually, which I thought was good because I hate when, because Sasha and Bayley got beat up by all those girls on Raw, and I hate when stuff like that happens, and then people team up, and then they act like, things that took place in the past never happened. So that was cool of her to say. So the Riot Squad got kicked off the team. Natty got kicked off the team. I mean, for all the women that were left out of the Survivor Series period, like no Ember Moon, I would have done something where, like, because you do a 2-hour pre-show. It's a 2-hour pre-show, and 99% of the pre-show was just a bunch of talking. I would have done another pre-show match where I would have had the entire Riot Squad with Ember Moon and maybe Natalia do a 5-on-5 Survivor Series pre-show match against the Iconics, Lana. They could have brought out Nikki Cross, and I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting one more person. Selena Vega. They could have threw Selena Vega in there because there's a lot of girls that got left off. But but the match starts, and I knew right out the gate because of everything that happened with Nia Jax breaking Becky's face. Nia got booed. Like, as soon as her music hit, like, the fans just booed. The fans booed her so bad that the SmackDown women found it hilarious. Like, Naomi was cracking up when the fans were booing Nia Jax. Tamina started laughing, and Nia, she played right into it, like she held up a fist and like kissed her fist as to say, like, she has the power of the punch, or the women's right, to quote an NXT reference. So, and then once that happened, I already knew, how the whole thing was going to end. Naomi was the first one eliminated, which was silly because she was the captain, and then Tamina was the second person eliminated. Carmella did a dance break. She came out with RTruth. But in the end, it came down to the final 3 was Asuka versus Sasha and Nia Jax, and the only thing worth mentioning is that Sasha was going one-on-one with Asuka, and she had Asuka down for the count, and then when Sasha was about to come off the top rope, to give a frog splash to Asuka. Nia Jax came out of nowhere and pushed Sasha off the top rope right into Asuka's arms for the Asuka lock, and then Sasha tapped out. And then Nia just picked up she just picked the bones of Asuka, hit her with a couple of leg drops, and then she got the victory. So Nia Jax is the sole survivor, much to the hate and the boos of the crowd. And if anything, the only thing that match did was basically like it keeps Nia as a heel that the fans want to boo, because Nia is supposed to be facing Ronda Rousey soon for the title. And I guess it sets up a match tomorrow between Sasha and Nia Jax. But other than that, again, like, and I guess maybe Mandy Rose versus like Sonya Deville, because there was one moment where Sonya Deville was going for a pin on someone, and Mandy Rose came out of nowhere, pushed her out of the way, and got the pin instead because she blind tagged her. So, I mean, if anything, we'll probably get a Sonya versus Mandy match. We'll get a Nia versus Sasha match. But aside from that, nothing really materialized from that whole situation. They did the Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura. No Dean Ambrose interference. And it was basically just a one-on-one match between the two of them. Kudos to Shinsuke Nakamura. One thing I'm going to say about this pay-per-view, every single member of Smackdown, not only did they dress for the occasion, not only did they wear the Smackdown blue t-shirts, they actually wore blue. Like, the New Day had on blue, the Usos wore blue shorts with blue tights, Naomi was dressed in blue. Nakamura, who always wears red and black when he wrestles, Nakamura had blue pants, he had blue pants and a black and blue shirt, and I was just like, you people are really taking this thing seriously, which is kind of cool to see. Which is actually kind of cool to see. To be honest, the only two people on this entire pay-per-view who did not wear their show's colors was Brock Lesnar and Daniel Bryan. But costume-wise, it was very visually appealing. Seth Rollins, he picked up the victory with the curb stomp, or the stomp. Again, like, no Dean Ambrose, interference. Seth Rollins got the win. Nakamura just pointed at him. I don't know if Nakamura was trying to tell him, good match, or I'll get you next time. I mean, it doesn't matter because they're not on the same show, so the two of them will never see each other again. But Seth Rollins got the win, so SmackDown SmackDown goes down 0-2 so far. They did the bar match between the AOP and the tag team champions. The bar, during that match, Big Show got his hands on Drake Maverick. Drake Maverick peed on himself, and the AOP picked up the victory. Nothing special there. No beef. It was just a regular tag match. AOP got the win, and we moved on. They did the cruiserweight match, Buddy Murphy versus Mustafa Ali. Good match by the two of them. The best cruiserweight match that I've seen so far in a long time has been Cedric Alexander versus Lio Rush this past Wednesday. That's when I watched anyway. This past Wednesday on 205 Live. So in my mind, nothing was going to beat that. But the match was cool. Buddy Murphy retained the title. What came after that? So then we had the Raw versus SmackDown men's match where Samoa Joe got eliminated right out of the gate, which the crowd did. The crowd did not like that. When Joe got eliminated, everyone started screaming bullshit. And I agree. It's like, come on, like Joe gets eliminated first, like that was stupid. But the whole point of this entire match between everybody was basically, at the very end of the match, it ended up being Shane McMahon versus Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and Braun Strowman. So it was just to poke fun at the fact that Shane McMahon is the quote-unquote best in the world, and to see if he can go up against these three monsters. Obviously didn't. They squashed him, and Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, and Drew McIntyre are the sole survivors. I was actually very happy to see that Bobby Lashley was part of that sole surviving squad, and it goes to show you right there that those are Vince's like three favorite people, on Raw. So hopefully Bobby Lashley gets something out of that, and he wasn't just he didn't get eliminated. So I thought they were going to do some BS where the only two people that got eliminated was Finn Balor and Dolph Ziggler. Lashley didn't get eliminated. He was one of the three sole survivors. So hopefully they do something with him now, instead of them constantly telling us that he's a monster and he's a machine and he's the most dominant. We already know that. You keep telling us. Show us. Put him in a situation where we can actually see it. Put him in the ring with Brock Lesnar. Give him the belt. Because if not, like just move Lashley to SmackDown and have him run through the roster on SmackDown. But that was it. So they SmackDown lost that one. Again, nothing special there. So then we have the SmackDown. Now this is where things started to get like a little bit more interesting. Because up until this point, like nothing special happened. Raw was winning all the matches. They won all the title matches. So it was kind of like the show was just kind of like at that point. But then we had Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey. Very physical match. I was very pleased of the physicality in the match. Ronda did a good job. The fans were actually behind Charlotte. One thing about this thing, I can't tell. I can't tell if the fans were just against the faces or the fans were just against Raw. Like the whole night, the whole show, everyone just seemed pro SmackDown, to the point where as much as the fans hated Charlotte and booed Charlotte, they were actually cheering for Charlotte versus Ronda, which is weird because the fans genuinely like Ronda. But again, it was a good back and forth match. But maybe they were cheering for Charlotte because they knew she was taking Becky's place, and everybody liked Becky. But during the match, like towards like the closing moments, again, it was just a slugfest between the two of them going back and forth. And towards the end, like Charlotte was on the floor, she had broke the 10 count. Ronda went outside to go get her, and then Charlotte just waffled her with a kendo stick that I assume she got from under the ring. And then after that, so I guess this is basically the Charlotte Flair heel turn that everyone's been asking for, because during the Becky feud, Becky was the heel, but the fans were cheering for her because they wanted her to be the face. Charlotte was the face. The fans hated her because they wanted her to be heel. So naturally, now that Charlotte turns heel against Ronda Rousey, the fans started cheering for her. So she turned heel, and now she's a face. But she beat the living hell out of that was some ECW type stuff. Like she was beating her with that kendo stick, and then she put the chair in her throat and stepped on the chair. Was knocking her around. And the funny thing about Ronda, like I can't tell if Ronda's a good seller or a bad seller, because the thing with Ronda is Ronda sells moves. She sells contact and she sells pain. The problem that I have with Ronda, she doesn't sell, like she sells it, but she recovers too quickly. Anyone who took the ass whooping that Ronda took would have been out for, they would have been laid out. They would have got carried out on a stretcher. Like the thing with Ronda is, Ronda's like, okay, I got punched in the face. I'm gonna hold my face to show everybody that I got punched in the face, but I'm not gonna stay on the floor and be in agonizing pain. Like even on Raw, when SmackDown invaded Raw, and Becky beat her ass in the locker room, put her in an armbar, and the whole time Ronda's in the armbar, she just had like this mean look on her face, like once this chick gets off me, I'm gonna kick her ass. And I'm just like, are you hurt or are you not hurt? It's like she still looked hurt. It's like she was pretending like she was hurt, but she still looked like she was just waiting for it to finish so she can kick her ass. The way Ronda sells is just odd to me. Like, it's just very odd to me. Like, I don't know if I'm bi or not, but but surprisingly, when it was over and Charlotte left, the fans were actually cheering, "Thank you, Charlotte." So the city of Los Angeles is not a fan of Ronda Rousey. And when Ronda left the ring, she rudely said to one of the security guys, like, "Don't touch me." I'm like, "Yo, I'm trying to help you." Well, but the fans started booing her when she was walking up the ramp. And then she even stopped for a second and paused just to look at the fans, as to say that, "What the hell are you guys booing me for? I just got my ass beat, with a kendo stick. Like, this chick just cheated." And it's like, why am I getting booed? But yeah, the fans booed her, which was a shock. It's shocking because they were booing Nia Jax too. So they just got finished booing Ronda. They were booing Nia Jax, and these two were supposed to fight each other. So hopefully, because at this point, I don't see any reason for the fans to hate Ronda. There's no reason to boo her. Ronda didn't do anything wrong. And to boo Ronda right now would just be ridiculous. Hopefully that's just a Los Angeles thing, and the rest of the world, the rest of the world like has their has their head on straight. But because of Nia Jax injuring Becky Lynch, who is beloved all across the world, hopefully going up against Nia Jax will keep the heat on Nia Jax, and it'll save. Hopefully people will cheer for Ronda, hoping that she takes down Nia Jax. so the fans can feel like they got retribution for what happened to Becky. So that's but I guess that'll be the TLC match when those two go at it. So we'll see what happens then. And then finally the last match. Well, real quick, RTruth RTruth kind of like saved the show for. The show was good, but Raw winning the whole night, I thought was kind of stupid. And then none of the matches lead anywhere after today. That part bothered me. That part actually did bother me. But seeing RTruth, first he tried to get on the Smackdown women's team, then he tried to get on the Raw men's team, and then he asked Shane McMahon to draft him to SmackDown, and Shane was like, "Bro, you're already on SmackDown." So RTruth kind of saved it, but the last match was the Daniel Bryan Brock Lesnar fight, which I thought was going to be pretty awkward, seeing how Bryan's kind of a heel. And again, Bryan came out, he came out pretty much in all black. Actually, Bryan wore red, black, and white. Even the side plates on the WWE Championship that he has, the plates are red. And I'm just like, you're on SmackDown and you have red plates and you're wearing red gear. He didn't wear the SmackDown t-shirt. Brock didn't wear the Raw t-shirt. So I was just like, well, these two clearly don't care about the whole Raw versus SmackDown thing. They're just here to fight. And there was really nothing to say here because the match started and Bryan got one move off where he low drop kicked him in the knee. And Brock in the knee. And then Brock basically proceeded to beat the living shit out of him for like 15-20 minutes. And then until the referee got knocked down, Daniel Bryan went for a kick to the nuts. The same thing that he did to AJ Styles. AJ Styles, who also did not appear in this pay-per-view. And, it was just like how when Brock Lesnar does 50 million suplexes for the entire night. Once Bryan got going, it was basically 50 million running knees the entire night. And Brock didn't fall. Brock didn't, go down to any of them. He managed to put him in the yes lock. Brock didn't tap. And, pretty much he F5'd him and he got the victory. So Daniel Bryan is still a heel. He got beat by Brock Lesnar. AJ Styles didn't show up. Nothing happened. Brock Lesnar walked away. And the most disappointing thing about the show, as cool as the show was, because it wasn't a bad show, the show was cool, but once tomorrow comes, no one's going to care. That's the only thing that happened. There were no betrayals, no team members turned on aside from Sasha and Nia Jax, and then the whole Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville awkwardness, nobody turned on anybody. There was no beef. There was no drama. It was just SmackDown versus Raw. SmackDown lost. Okay, back to normal. So we'll see what kind of feuds materialize from this whole situation. But that was it. It was still a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. The NXT show last night, was very good too. I didn't do a review on the NXT show because they really only had 4 matches and no titles changed hands. And just like with Survivor Series, Matt Riddle beat Cassius Ohno in 2 seconds. Johnny Gargano lost to Aleister. After all this stuff that happened between Aleister Black and Johnny Gargano, Johnny lost. So I'm just like, well, he lost now, so this was pointless. And it was Johnny's a heel. He lost his first match as a heel, and it's pointless. That's I don't care about the two. He lost, so it's just well, this is over now. Velveteen Dream unfortunately did not win the championship. So as much as I love the Velveteen Dream, I don't see why he should get a rematch. People were saying that because Ciampa tapped out when he had his legs in the figure 4 pole, but that wouldn't have counted anyway because he was outside the ring, and you can't get a tap out when the other guy's outside of the ring with his legs wrapped around the pole. So I don't see why Velveteen Dream would get a rematch. Kairi Sane lost to Shayna Baszler, so there's no reason for her to get a rematch. And I'm a little annoyed by that whole thing because Shayna Baszler's people, her other 2 MMA horsewomen, they came out and beat the crap out of Kairi Sane to help Shayna get the first fall in the 2 out of 3 falls match. So later on, at the end of the match, Dakota Kai, for whatever reason, she came out anybody wanted to see her. And then Io Shirai, who everybody's been waiting for to help out Kairi Sane, she showed up at the very last second, and Kairi Sane still lost the match. My whole thing is, if the match was, as an example, if the match was 15 minutes long, and Shayna's people showed up in the first 2 minutes of the match and beat the crap out of Kairi Sane. Why is Io Shirai and Dakota Kai coming out in the last 2 minutes of the match? Like, that should have been came out. Like, that should have came out from, like, the very beginning. They didn't. Kairi Sane lost, and there's no reason for her to get a rematch. The North American champion and, you know, the tag team, the NXT tag team champions, they didn't wrestle because they didn't defend their titles because they were in War Games, and Ricochet's team won the War Games match. So the beef between the only way the beef between those four guys and the Undisputed Era can continue is if the Undisputed Era challenges those four guys. Well, the War Raiders don't have belts, so the only way those 8 people can still exist after last night is if all 8 of them challenge each other for each other's titles. But, you know, other than that, it was just like, I don't see what this did. But again, it was still a good pay-per-view. There was just nothing to the outcomes, you know. So I guess we're gonna get fresh new feuds and everything on Wednesday. Well, not Wednesday, because they always take the show off after a takeover. So 2 weeks from now, I guess we'll get brand new feuds, because again, nothing happened in the takeover. I mean, Bianca Belair's been undefeated, you know, for the past year, so maybe she'll finally get herself a championship match. But other than that, like, I don't know what happened. I don't know where they're gonna go from there, you know. But obviously, I'll keep watching. So that was it. I mean, that was the Survivor Series pay-per-view. Again, according, you know, SmackDown won the pre-show match no one cared about, and Raw basically won 6-0. So check it out if you want. You know, let me know in the comments what you think. You know, give a like. And I guess TLC is the next show coming up, so we'll review that too. And hopefully there'll be more to talk about on the TLC show than there was on this Survivor Series show. So take care, everybody. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, and until next time, I'm out this bitch.